In this video, I will be showing you how to make this cookie game. So this cookie game is a game my sister and I made in Scratch. So first let's see what it does. So if you click the green flag, you will immediately notice that these robots are trying to get you. You don't want to let the robots get you, and the way you get away from them is by using the arrows. So you're able to control this purple circle with your arrows. So we're just going to call this purple circle Bob. Now, the next thing you want to do is try to get the orange cookies. And when you get the orange cookies, more robots will spawn on the spawn pad. Also, when you get the orange cookies, it'll change your score over here at this cookie score place. So when you touch the robots, a big "you lost" sign will appear. So I'll be showing you how you're able to code all these different things inside your Scratch game. So let's get started and see. Here, the first thing I'm going to talk about is Bob. So when you look at all this code, you will see that here is how I'm able to control Bob with the arrows. So here, I also showed this in my previous video and how you're able to control sprites with arrows. Here, this block of code is just to make it so that it looks like Bob is eating the cookie, which is the orange blob. And so here it just says, if touching sprite 1, which is the cookie, switch to costume 2. So if you see over here, I have 2 costumes, this first costume and then the second costume. So this code is just to be able to switch between the 2 costumes to make it look like Bob is eating the cookie. And here it says, forever point towards sprite 1. So you don't need this block of code, but it just makes it so that it looks more realistic, and so that Bob is always pointing towards the cookie. So if I take this away, then you will see that Bob is not facing the cookie. Bob still opens its mouth when it's touching the cookie, but he isn't actually looking at it. So the other bit of code is here, and it says, when flag clicked, go to random position. So you don't need this either, but I just find that it makes the game more exciting if you don't know where Bob's going to turn up when you click the green flag. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the cookie. So here, there's this big block of code. And so what does this block of code do? Well, here is an if and else statement. So if touching sprite 2, which is Bob, then do all this stuff, and else switch to costume 1. So if it's touching Bob, then it'll change cookie score by 1. So like I said earlier, here is the cookie score, and when the flag is clicked, it'll set cookie score to 0, but when Bob is eating the cookie, then you want to change the cookie score by 1. And over here, it just makes it so that it looks like Bob is eating the cookie by changing the costumes. So if you look over here, then it has bite marks and all the costumes. And so this just switches to the costumes after 0.3 seconds. And after Bob swallows the cookie, it broadcasts message 1. So with broadcasting and receiving messages, it just works like, let's say, a sprite broadcasts a message. When another sprite receives the message, it can trigger a bit of code that can do something. So in this case, I'll be showing you what that triggers after in a little while. Okay, so here so after it broadcasts the message, it goes to a random position, and then now I'm going to explain what this does. So basically, you're able to make different sprites say things by putting speech bubbles, by making them have speech bubbles. And so this just says, come eat me. You don't need this. It just makes it easier to find the cookie so you can control Bob to go eat it. And here it says, when flag clicked, switch to costume 1. So you might accidentally switch the cookie to a different costume. So this just makes it so that the default is costume 1, which is a whole cookie. And here it says, if touching sprite 5, go to random position. So sprite 5 is this spawn pad here. The reason why we don't want it near the spawn pad is because if it's hiding behind the spawn pad, Bob is not able to see it, which means Bob can't go over there and eat it. And now I will be talking about the robot 1. So this robot, so this is one of the robots that is trying to chase Bob. So if you see, I have separated the code into 3 categories. The first one here is moving. So you might have wondered how the robots are able to move towards Bob without us having to control it with the keyboard. Well, first of all, this here says move 10 steps. In a forever block, it says move 10 steps, then wait 0.8 seconds. So you're not able to only have this, because if we only had this, then the robot would move in a random direction and not towards Bob. So that's why we have this. So here it says in a forever block, point towards sprite 2. So if it's pointing towards Bob, then it will always go the direction Bob is. And now here it says now here in the next category, it says when flag is clicked, go to these coordinates. So if you see, if I click this green flag, it will always go back to the same position. So you don't need this, but I find it useful if I always know where the robot is going to go. Here it says, if touching sprite 2, broadcast message 2 and stop all. So if touching Bob, then broadcast message 2. And then it has this stop all block of code. So what this does is it basically just stops all the code. So it's just clear that you've lost the game. And here it says, when I receive message 1, create a clone of myself. So if you remember, here it says broadcast message 1, And then when the robot receives message 1, then create a clone of myself. So what this does is whenever Bob eats a cookie, then a robot spawns in the spawn pad. So here it says when I start as a clone, point towards sprite 2, and basically just the same thing as it is here, except for one tiny difference is this block of code here, which basically makes it so that the clone always spawns in the spawn pad. And then robot 2 is just basically the same as robot 1, except without the clone code. And now I'll talk about the spawn pad. So basically, all the code in the spawn pad is in a forever block, go to these coordinates, which is basically if you accidentally move the spawn pad here, then it'll go back to the coordinates no matter what. And here it says go to back layer. So what back layer means is that everything that's on it will be in front of it so you're able to see it. Because if we have it go to the front layer and Bob eats a cookie and a robot spawns, you're not able to see it because it's behind the spawn pad. So we just want to make it go to the back. And here is the you lost sign. So if the first bit of code is here, and it basically has the same, the reason why it's there is basically the same as the spawn pad, just in case you accidentally move the you lost sign, then it'll always go back to these coordinates. And when flag is clicked, hide. And when I receive message 2, if you see here, it says broadcast message 2, then show. So that's the code, and that's the code for this cookie game that you're able to look up on Scratch and play. So I think I find this very useful because it has a lot of different things you can learn about when that will come in useful when you're making your own Scratch project or game. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah.